Top U.S. court refuses to hear appeal of Monsanto seed case. The U.S. Supreme Court on Monday declined to hear an appeal by organic farmers and others seeking to require Monsanto Company to promise never to sue farmers if their fields inadvertently have plants containing the company's patented genetically modified traits. A company lawyer said that Monsanto had not sued for inverted use of its biotech seeds and did not plan to, but that it would not make a blanket promise to that effect. Lower courts held that none of those who sued had been injured. The Organic Seed Growers and Treat Association and a group of dozens of organic and conventional family farmers, seed companies, and public advocacy interests sued Monsanto in March 2011. The suit sought to prohibit the company from suing farmers whose fields became inadvertently contaminated with corn, soybeans, cotton, canola, and other crops containing Monsanto's GMOs, or genetic modifications. And then it goes on and on and on. But let's look at this other paragraph here. But there have been several cases, this paragraph is important. But there have been several cases in which the patented genetic traits have been found to have mixed into fields where farmers had not purchased or planted the biotech seeds. Monsanto routinely sues farmers who it says intentionally plant its biotech seeds without paying for the technology, but it has said it will not sue farmers whose fields are accidentally contaminated. In the suit filed by organic and conventional growers, the group asked Monsanto for a preemptive pledge not to sue them since they do not use the biotech seeds, but Monsanto refused to do so, saying a blanket covenant not to sue any present or future member of the organizations would enable virtually anyone to commit intentional infringement. Now, regardless of whatever aisle you're on, whether you're for genetically modified foods, I don't think there are many out there, or who don't like GMOs. We have to look at one thing though. Organic farmers are going to probably lose in this case because sometimes, not all the time, these farmers get screwed over and get sued. We don't need to go into it. You could watch the documentaries. I need to be careful with my wording for obvious reasons in this podcast. But if you want to look at organic farmers in general, it's really difficult for them to even compete in the marketplace. I mean, one may say that they could get sued, whether they rightfully should be sued or not. That's not the case. There's another problem with organic farmers as well. Now, I'm looking at this article from TakePart.com. The other article is from Reuters.com, by the way. And this article from Take Part is, will the FDA's new food rules hurt small farmers? And basically, we have to look at this article to find out what kind of issues that some of these small farmers are going to have to deal with. No one wants to feel like their life is at risk, but how much power should we give our government agencies to keep us safe? Where do sensible rules and regulations and invasive supervision begin? And whose lives will be permanently altered in the process? No, it's not Homeland Security I'm talking about, but food safety. And as the FDA prepares to, let me exit this out, prepares to enforce a set of long overdue safety rules, these questions are becoming harder and harder to ignore, especially for small farmers and others involved in building the local food movement. You see, back in 2011, when Congress passed the highly controversial Food Safety Modernization Act, a coalition of farmers, sustainable farming advocates, and consumers worked tirelessly to ensure that the bill wouldn't put undue burden on small food producers. We all deserve safe food, the thinking went, but why should a 10-acre organic farm have to follow all the same rules as a 10,000-acre corporate farm? After much debate, rather than adjust the safety rules to better fit small farms, lawmakers agreed to an amendment that would partially exempt farmers grossing less than $500,000 a year who sell more than half their products directly to consumers or retailers that do. Earlier this year, or this 2 years after the bill was passed, the FDA finally came out with a set of draft rules that all non-exempt produce growers will have to follow. And despite the exemption, it has many small farmers worried. And it talks about one small farmer, and it says even though they sell more than $500,000 worth of produce, he says we don't keep 10% of our sales as income. So, long story short, they're not, they probably have maybe cash flow problems. So, if you have cash flow problems, then what's that going to do when you have more rules and regulations? Basic economics tells you that they could A, go under, or they're going to face some difficulties. Going on, following the rules, if the draft version gets final approval, will mean regularly testing the water they use, filling out masses of paperwork, and providing regular training for his workers. But Crawford's biggest concern is that part of the rules governing manure, which he uses in abundance to boost fertility on his farm, while some of his compost, a portion of what manure is applied fresh and given several months to decompose in the soil. We probably have to start composting all our manure, which is extremely expensive and time consuming. So, long story short, when the government comes in and says that, hey, guess what? You need to do this and that and this and that. And suppose you're a small business and you don't have the cash flow. You barely could make payroll, barely could pay bills. Now you have Obamacare to deal with. And now if you're a farmer, you have this Food Safety Modernization Act to deal with. What is it going to do to small businesses? It's going to hurt them tremendously. Some are going to have to be bought out by bigger multinational companies. That's the part that these big government liberals and big government progressives, big government Republicans are not going to tell you. I mean, this is unfortunate to see that organic farmers, whether it's getting sued by competitors or bigger corporations, regardless of whether they're at fault or not, or whether they have to deal with the rules of the FDA. It seems that organic farming is getting bullied, or these organic farmers are getting bullied. And sure, there is a huge movement to get organic foods, but at the same time, you can't have that revolution. You can't have less genetically modified foods if you have the FDA continuing to harass farmers, or you have rules and regulations that hurt farmers, or they get sued, whatever the reason is. So that's something to note, guys. Anyways, I'll talk to you later. Bye.